Excellent. So, Thomas,
Hello.
could you tell us where you are? Thank you for joining me today. Could you tell me where in the world you are and what you do?
Yes, I am in a city called the Paris of the North, and also known as Aalborg, which is a city in Denmark.
Yeah.
It's, it's the fourth biggest city in Denmark, which doesn't say much. But there's around 200,000 people living here,
Oh, that's a good sign.
and there's around 40,000 students.
That's a lot.
And then it's I would say our context is that it used to be like a working class city. I mean, very much working class. And then over the last 10 years, culture, education,
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is what it is kind of developing into. So that is like, so we are in a city with a lot of development and new, you could say, branding in a new way.
Right. Yeah. Regeneration. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've known each other for some time, haven't we?
Many years.
Many years. 20 years, maybe. Yeah. I'm sure we both met around the time The Lord of the Rings came out. So
yeah, something around there.
Must be 20 years ago. So, so I've been being very nosy, talking to some pastor friends just to make sure they're alive, trying to find out how they're getting on, what they're doing. I'm, nosy as well. It helps me figure out some things. So I got 3 questions I'm going to ask you. And the first one is, because none of us, I don't remember, well, actually, I remember the first time when this hit, typing into Google, leading a church in a pandemic. And you're like, I'm not ready for this. No seminary, no books, no training, nothing. And it was a steep learning curve for me. So I'm assuming it was something similar for you. But what was it like for you? What helped you get oriented and figure out what was happening?
I mean, on the night where our prime minister, she announced, now we're locking it all down.
Yeah.
I was actually training some leaders in another church. And then, one of the guys at the training, he like, hey, the prime minister is closing down. And I went into a panic. So I was like calling my wife and say, hey, I'll just go shopping before I go home. And it was so surreal because I think that everybody was like losing control. I mean, we've been brought up in a time and in a culture where having control is like, what we're all aiming for. And suddenly this prime minister, she's shutting the country down and closing all schools, everything.
Yeah.
And people are losing control. And then what can we do? I mean, what are some of the things we can actually do in this situation where we have no control? I mean, at least we can buy toilet paper.
Toilet rolls, yes.
So
you had that as well.
Yeah. I did one. I bought one extra.
One extra.
But it was so surreal to be in like a grocery store that night, where everybody was just like, grabbing all kind of random stuff from the shelves and just thinking, okay, at least then I have, 10 boxes of biscuits. I mean, so that was like my, and I kind of got into that, you could say, atmosphere. So I think that was like the first one. And then you actually went into a grocery store the next day or 2 days after, and you see, hey, there's still stuff on the shelves, and it's not totally closing down everything. And so that was like, so that was my first reaction. But then, and then I thought, okay, things are changing, but what are some rhythms that I can actually establish from the beginning, so I can actually, have a way of living that is not totally just like, everything is shut down. What should I do?
Yeah.
And for me, I did some. I actually started to do like some morning devotions, which I'm still doing actually, because I thought for myself, I need a rhythm of doing morning devotion still. And then I thought, when probably other people need that as well. So I just from the first day on like Facebook Live, did like morning devotions, so
Yeah.
people could actually have like a rhythm to be part of.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and then I talked to one of my friends, and she said, "Okay, this is like, I mean, we have peacetime rhythms and we have wartime rhythms."
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I totally agree with the language, but there's something about this is an extraordinary situation that we
Yeah.
have never experienced before. So life will in some way be different, and we need to find new rhythms of life.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the first 5 weeks, my kids were home from school.
Yeah.
So I had to do like, homeschooling and trying to do work as well and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I remember where I was when the Prime Minister made his announcements. I was at a church with a friend. And it's amazing, even having never been through something like this, I'm still, I guess it's denial. You're like, yeah, it can't be that bad. And it wasn't until I got a video from our national directors of vineyard churches in the UK and watched John Wright. I remember watching the video, and he was like, please don't tell everyone that everything is going to be okay, because it's not. And that was a moment when I felt like my stomach just dropped out. And I thought, this is really happening.
Yeah.
And you realize how entrenched that, I mean, I'm prone to thinking the worst of life anyway, but I realized this denial that I had, that was like, this is happening.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up. It's taken me a good 5 weeks to wake up in the morning and not have to remind myself that this is really happening. You know, that feeling like, is that really happening? Yeah. So you stole all the toilet rolls. Fantastic.
And I think that, I mean, in Denmark where we live, we have we have a strong welfare state.
Yeah.
And I think that very much into like into the Danish culture.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this, I mean, it basically goes back to like the feudal society back in like Middle Ages, that, you would have a strong feudal lord that would kind of take care of you if everything went wrong. And you could say in some sense it's the same kind of development with the welfare system. It's just like a different way of feudal system, that we think that, I mean, when everything breaks down, I mean, there's still a strong state that in some way will come and rescue us.
Yeah, I guess that must be different. We've got a good state here, but I visited yours and I know there's a lot more state provision. And then I compare that to my American friends who have far less than we do, and you watch that playing out. I liked, I'm sure it was a Danish thing, who knows, the whole, we had shops, selling toilet rolls for £10 a toilet roll, price gouging. But I love that. I'm sure it was a Danish idea I saw. The shops were saying very early on, you can buy one beer for €1, but if you want to buy 2 beers, it's €5.
Yeah, exactly.
They're making it more expensive. And I think, they're culturally very clever. If you want to buy lots, it costs you a lot more.
I also seen it on like the, what they call like disinfections, where you clean your hands. You can have like one bottle for 20 kroner or €2, but then your second bottle is like €50.
That was very clever. Very clever. I saw lots of jokes and memes online, and it was like, here, different countries' response to the coronavirus. Most European countries, they're screaming and panicking. All the Scandinavian countries are just walking calmly in the sunshine.
And I think, I actually think that we are very, I mean, even though there's been a lot of like, we are tired of politicians, I think this crisis has shown that we are actually still trusting a lot in our politicians, right? So Danes has been pretty good at staying at home until the sun came out 2 weeks ago. I mean, then we were just like, we can't handle it anymore. So everybody was just out on like in the parks and on the squares and everywhere people were just gathering, because they're just like, okay, yes, we are very trusting in our politicians, but at the same time, when the sun is there, we need to get out.
Yeah, we've had amazing weather, and I'm glad it's not just us that have struggled to get in trouble going outdoors. But yeah, it's interesting, Paula, because we've had Brexit,
Yeah,
and that's just been horrific. I've just despaired of politicians, but something else has kicked in. I know
yeah,
it's a wartime crisis mentality, but our politicians are behaving.
mm,
They're being polite and deferential, and
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure you've heard the phrase "non-anxious presence."
yeah,
Milton
sure,
Friedman is suddenly everywhere, and
yeah,
like our politicians are like, they're calm and they're measured, and it's been so nice after Brexit for that calmness to return
yeah.
and some trust in politicians for now.
For now, yeah, because now at least in Denmark we can see now they are warming up because I mean there has to be some I mean, yeah.
Everything that
So
comes next. Yeah. So talking to coming next. So what's helping you as a leader to plan, to look ahead, to
yeah,
move, help your people move forward? What's helping you the most?
yeah. I think it was Pope Francis who's kind of said that now we are in the middle of the night. That this coronavirus
Ah,
is
really?
like in the middle of the night, and then I thought that was a good picture of
Yeah,
a night has come. And then of course we have also been over Easter, but and the dawn is coming at some point,
yeah,
and probably it will be a new kind of day. I mean, the day that is coming will not be like the days we had before because,
yeah.
I mean, there will still be restrictions on social
Mm,
things, and
mm,
it will just be a different kind of feeling to it, I think. But I was just thinking, but for me, the question came.
yeah.
So if this is a night we are in, how do I want to wake up? I mean, what are some of the things that I'm actually
Mm,
waking up stronger to the new day, or
yeah,
more resilient, or more robust,
yeah,
and how can I help my people and
yeah,
the people that I'm leading? How can we actually wake up together and think, okay, we are actually stronger than we were when the night was not there?
yeah. Very good.
Um, so
Mm,
so that has been a mental picture for me to kind
mm,
of trying to use. So so for some of the things that we are thinking now is that, I mean, we need to pray more.
yeah,
I mean, that is one of the
yeah,
practices that the church has always had,
yeah.
in time of crisis, but also in time of
Mm,
wanting.
mm,
So 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 we are doing, I mean, more prayer than before, and more collective prayer on Zoom, and
yeah.
different kind of. So
Mm,
that's one thing that we are trying to do to prepare us for the future.
yeah.
And then we're
Mm,
also trying to figure out. I mean, how is it that? Um, I mean, we have found out during this crisis that it's actually. I mean, people are not so afraid of like the online experience. I mean, some of it is of course because we don't have a physical experience,
yeah,
but there's something about being online that is not
yeah,
so frightened anymore.
yeah.
So is there possibilities when it comes to discipleship,
Mm,
and spiritual formation, that we can actually do it online, that people maybe they would like to
yeah,
meet every day for like half an hour and pray together and speak. I mean,
yeah.
is that something that we
Mm,
can step in? And then I have just been surprised by my morning devotions on Facebook, how far they get out. I mean,
yeah. Wow.
um, that suddenly it's people from Copenhagen, which is far away from here, that is responding, and
Yeah,
also people in my network that is not Christians that is like writing to me and saying, "Hey,
yeah.
this was really significant."
Amazing.
So there's something about this digital experience that I really hated before. I was thinking that's not real church. That I'm kind of reconsidering a little bit
Yeah,
about how can I have a digital presence
yeah,
that actually is also trying to introduce people to Christ.
yeah.
So that is some of the things
Mm,
that we are looking. And then of course we're doing a lot like a lot of other vineyard churches doing a lot of social stuff.
mm,
So, and that has been a little bit difficult in this time because you're not really allowed to do a lot of things. But I think that a lot of families will be struggling after this,
yeah,
because they've been too much together, and just, I mean, in the not,
Yeah.
I mean, before the Corona crisis, they were struggling
Yeah.
because the kids maybe were too
Yeah.
big a handful to handle. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I'm not sure that they are coming out stronger after this
Mhm.
crisis. I think that they're really like struggling.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about what are some of the
Mm.
things that we can actually offer to those families that are struggling on all kind of different levels that can actually help them to kind of reestablish life after the Corona crisis.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that from Pope Francis. We're feeling the same. It's what comes next is going to be the hardest part with mental health, financial problems, relationship problems, and trying to lean into that for like you in the digital world. And I sometimes feel like the digital's finally become ubiquitous. I mean, it's been real for a while, but it's like when people had telephones, they used to ring each other just to ring each other.
Yeah.
And then the technology fades into the background. No one thinks twice about ringing someone to pray for them. But now I don't think anyone will think twice about meeting in Zoom to pray. It will be just the same as using the phone. You know, the technology disappears into the background. And I think, like you, I found myself in the midst of this. It's like everything I've ever wanted to be as a Christian or know I could be as a Christian, now is the time to be it. Because if not now, then never. So, you're like suddenly prayer. You open your Bible. I don't know about you. I'm opening my Bible. I'm like, this is amazing. I get some of this now. Yeah. It's awesome. All right, my friend. Well, last question. So, on a more personal note, what's been one of the biggest challenges for you, and what's been one of the greatest blessings so far?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge is, I mean, I'm an extrovert, so I get my energy from being around people, and I mean,
Whole family. Oh gosh.
That's not. I mean,
wow.
That's not really happening at the moment. So actually, the days, especially after my kids went back to school, but everything is still locked down. So I mean, it's so weird that the kids are allowed to meet, but no one else is allowed to meet. I mean, that has been. I mean, the days where I have not seen anyone. I mean, that has been some long days. And yeah, so that has been, and then the sense of that has been a challenge, and also this sense of, you don't really have a feeling of, the people that you should be in community with, and you're walking together with. And of course we can talk on Zoom, but and in the first 2 or 3 weeks I was very thrilled about Zoom, and I thought it was the best invention ever. And now I'm zooming out a little bit, and because I need that physical contact to hug and just high five or whatever. I mean, so that thing has been really a struggle for me. And yeah, so that has been like, and I also just think for a personal level. I mean, as a church leader, you're thinking, I mean, will anyone be there when we come back? I mean, we're planning a church here, and I'm thinking, I mean, maybe they're finding out that, hey, this is so cool. We don't need to meet in church. We don't need to meet in small groups. I mean, what a great life we are having. And you are thinking, whoa. But then at the same time, I mean,
I bet you're the only pastor in the world who feels like that.
Yeah. But then, of course, at the same time, I'm thinking, so yeah, but I mean, the main task for us is to make disciples. And this, of course, you can say this is also a blessing. Maybe it forces us to think about, how is it that we are making disciples, or are we just making a good social network for people to connect with? Or is it actually discipleship? I mean, what is it that we are actually producing? And I think this time is really showing us how resilient and how robust are our followers. I mean, the people that we have, that we are trying to lead into closer relationship to Christ. So that is some way a blessing. You could say that we actually get an opportunity to think about that.
Yeah.
But then it has been a blessing to be with my girls. I mean, I know it's a cliche and you probably have to say it, but I mean, it has actually been just great to hang out with them and do schoolwork and play football in the backyard and just, you know, go on bike rides and stuff like that. And it has been a blessing to see them say, "Oh, I'm bored," and actually said, "Yes, that's how it is to be a kid when I was a kid." So that has been, yeah. And then I think it has been a blessing to actually. It's not like I have not read tons of more books than I used to, but actually more time to reflecting and more time to be with God. I mean, I have definitely done that. And then the last thing, I'm getting in better shape. I mean, because I'm running a lot faster than I did before. And that's a blessing.
Why faster?
I mean, because I'm a 3 in the Enneagram.
Okay.
So it has to be faster. It has to be better.
Achieving as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Oh, wow. Well, it's funny you should say family. My eldest daughter has moved back home. She's 26, and I've really enjoyed the extra time with her.
Yeah.
She'll never watch this, so I can talk about her. And a very nice thing has been watching her fall in love with a young man, and they've never met. Their whole relationship has been in isolation, and they're even sending handwritten letters to each other.
Oh my goodness, that's serious.
Yeah. And very strange watching that, because I'm like, I remember as a kid you used to have to walk to a payphone to ring someone.
Yeah.
Wanted a relationship or a letter. But the blessings, and there are some, aren't there?
Yeah.
I'm noticing the we've got people, and you know what happens in a crisis, people turn back towards God and back towards the church, and that's been wonderful in some ways to see, because it's not like people are on there's something different because everyone's in this together.
Yeah.
So it feels different this time than when someone has their own crisis and they connect. It has a very different feel to it.
Yeah. Can I just say a little bit about that, because that's one of the things that I've been observing, that this is one of the first times where, you know, we come from an evangelical charismatic kind of church background.
Yeah.
And normally we are very good at speaking about, you know, then you meet Christ and then everything is good, and now you all need to meet Christ so everything can be good in your life. And then this is the first time that we are actually more, as I see it, are able to actually say, hey, we are in a crisis together, and we are all losing hope, we are all losing control, we are all feeling the vulnerability there is in life. And I mean, and this is how I struggle with my vulnerability. This is how I struggle with my, you know, uncertainty.
Yeah.
And it's actually through God that I find somewhere to but it's out from the same experience than everybody else is experiencing. So in that sense, I think there's a big opportunity to be a witness of how is God actually helping me through this crisis.
Yeah, we can't all pretend that everything's okay, because everyone knows it's not.
It's not.
I don't know what I've noticed in some prayer meetings, I've been to lots in my role, and there's still a lot of prayers that are centered on, you know, God, make a miracle cure, take this away, fix it, and make everything better. And I increasingly find myself wanting, I'm praying James 1, you know, consider it pure joy when trials come to you, and you know, to produce perseverance. And that bit James is, and let perseverance continue its work.
Yeah.
And my suspicion is that if this is God in history, he has far from finished.
Yeah.
I hate what's happening, but at the same time, I'm like, Lord, you do what you need to do, as awful as it is. But
exactly. I mean, this is a big. I mean, I've been thinking about John 15 when about the pruning process of the wine. That I mean, he's really pruning his people at the moment, where we kind of get stripped into my own dependency on God, my own spiritual practices, and actually. I mean, you're always we just bought a house last year, and this was the first time I have a garden. But I mean, we had to cut the trees down to actually make it more fruitful. And I'm thinking, I wonder if we are being pruned now because maybe God has something more fruitful in hand to the church.
All those metaphors that we sing about, pruning, replanted, potting, breaking, fires, furnaces, crucifixion,
exactly,
cross. It's like, oh yeah, those are real. Those are not metaphors. They are real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Spiritual life. Well, Thomas, we just scratched the surface, and it's good to see you're alive and well. And thank you for taking part in this. All right.
Thank you for inviting me.